Welcome to the Climb Podcast, where we are diving into taboo topics and redefining the rules for women of color leaders. Get ready as we share the stories and amplify the voices of extraordinary women of color. From navigating workplace challenges to celebrating triumphs, on this podcast, we've got you covered. So buckle up and join us as we embark on today's empowering journey. Today is one of my favorite episodes, and the theme that we typically have for these is called Her Climb, where we're able to bring in women of colors who have done the thing that we've wanted to do, who have climbed the ladder, who have a story to tell, and they come on the podcast and tell us all the things that they've learned, the things that they've enjoyed, the things that they didn't enjoy so much. And so today I have someone who I will tell you in a short period of time has become one of my favorite people. Now, it is not often that you meet someone, well, maybe for you guys, but not for me. When you meet someone, you have an instant connection, like boom, you feel connected as if you guys have been walking for a long time together. I met Sheryl, I think we met like maybe 4 months ago.
Was it? I don't even remember now.
It seems like we've been in connection for a long time, but I met her and immediately felt connected.
Yes.
And I will tell you, in a short period of time, has had an amazing impact on me personally and on this organization. She is a part of the Climb Advisory Board, an executive champion, all of the things. And so I want to welcome Sheryl Whitaker to the podcast. Welcome, Sheryl.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you. I'm so happy to be there. It's beautiful.
I'm happy to have you too. This is going to be, you guys, an awesome conversation. So buckle your seats. In the interim, I'm going to read her bio because we make sure on the podcast we give people all their flowers. So Sheryl is a certified executive coach and leadership strategist with over 35 years experience in insurance, financial services, and Fortune 500 companies. She's held senior leadership roles at State Farm, AIG, and USAA, where she has led large-scale learning transformations, digital innovation, and leadership development initiatives that strengthen workforces' capabilities and engagements across a global enterprise or global enterprises. She's the founder and CEO of Eden Anthony Elite Talent Solutions, LLC. Sheryl helps leaders refine their leadership brand, expand their influence, and drive strategic talent initiatives with clarity and purpose. And if you've ever sat in on one of Sheryl's workshops, which she actually hosted one for the Climb a couple weeks ago, you live this. Like, she does this exceptionally well, very superb.
Thank you.
She is currently writing her first book centered on joy as a leadership strategy. And we were just talking about it's coming out soon, and I'm so excited. It is a powerful tool for staying whole, present, and impactful in the face of success and strain. And I hope you're going to talk about the book today. A recognized thought leader, Sheryl serves on multiple advisory councils, including the Climb, including the TEDx South Lake Executive Advisory Board, contributing her expertise to future-ready leadership and talent development strategies. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Marketing from Pennsylvania State University and an MBA from Dolan College. Passionate about what she calls heart-centered leadership, she is sought after as a speaker dedicated to helping leaders unlock their potential, lead with confidence, and thrive in the ever-evolving workplace. Her love for watercolor painting, I love that, mirrors her leadership style. Thoughtful, creative, and deeply connected to human experience. A frequent traveler, Sheryl draws from her Trinidad and Tobago roots to bring a rich cultural lens to her work, reinforcing her belief that powerful leadership is both deeply personal and universally human. Love your bio.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Felicia. Oh, it sounds good when you read it.
Try to put a little bit of pizzazz in it.
I love
Um,
it. I love it. Thank
just a
you.
little razzle dazzle, but no, we definitely have to give you your flowers. I hope that we get to talk more about a little bit about your book. We don't want to give away too much, but I want to start off, Cheryl. Just tell us a little bit about your leadership journey and all the things and how you got to your current company.
Oh, okay. So it could be a really long story. When you said 35 years, it's like it always feels sounds so strange when I hear that because I don't I it's going by so fast. It's going by so fast, but I'm having the absolute best time. It's funny because I started out, I got my degree in marketing from Penn State, and I always thought I wanted to be in advertising. And I'm dating myself a little bit, but way back then, you had to know how to type, and you had to know how to type fast. And
Yes, I remember that.
yeah, you remember that? Oh. So
Yes.
I ended up working at State Farm because it was the only entry level job that I can get out of college where they did not ask for a typing test. So I was able to like just go in and then just start working. And I always thought, when I first got there, that I was going to be there for, a year or so until I got my quote unquote my real job.
Yeah.
But I know we were talking about insurance before, but insurance organizations are like a great place to grow up, to learn. There's so many different facets to that type of organization. I ended up being at State Farm for 17 years.
Wow.
17 years. And I mean, I grew up there. Everything that I learned about work, leadership, teamwork, all those kind of things I learned in that organization. It was an interesting place to grow up because it was completely at that time promote from within. So from entry all the way through to our most senior executives, everybody started in the same place. And
That's awesome.
so, yeah, I mean, and it's like, it's kind of unheard of now, Felicia.
It
Like, you don't
is.
really see a lot of organizations like that. But I wasn't intentional back then about what I wanted to do. While I was at State Farm, I was a claims adjuster. And I had a manager who really believed in me, and she thought that I had like leadership ability. And so I went for it. I was 3 years into my job as a claims adjuster, and I applied for a supervisor role, and I got it. And I quickly learned that leadership and at that point managing was not so much about the work, and it was everything about the people. And then that
Yeah.
became like my focus. And I just continued to climb to a variety of levels of leadership along the way in that organization on the claims side, in the claims organization. A great, great place to work. And then one day, one of my peers who was responsible for the claims training class went out on leave. And she
Hmm.
was okay. She was going to be okay. But I was asked to take over the claims training school class, as
Hmm.
well as do my other big job. And
Both, of course,
I was
of
like,
course.
okay, of course, you got to do both, right? And I did. And let me tell you something, girl. I fell in love. I was like so in love with it. I loved watching other folks who were just like how I was a few years ago, coming
Yeah.
in fresh out of college, first job, and just like watching the lights go off, as they were like
Yeah.
learning. And then once I did that for a few months, and then once she came back and I was going back to my regular life, I was just trying to find all different kinds of ways to
To
like
get back.
to do that, to get back into training. Like, do you need this done? You need that done? Can I help you with this? Can I help you with that? Any kind of the time that I can get in front of a classroom or in front of a group and help them learn and develop, I was all for it. And so I remember one day a friend came to me who was on the HR side, and she told me that there was a learning development role open. And she said, you might want to go for it because this is your passion. And I'm like, I'm down for it. Let's go. And she said, well, let me tell you, it is two, maybe three levels lower than where I was.
Oh,
She
wow.
said, this if you do this, it's going to be a demotion for you. And I
Mm.
just looked at her and I said, okay, like, where do I sign? Because I was like, so, like, it was just like in my heart that that's really what I wanted to do. And so I had a really great boss, Nancy Tully, at the time, who believed in me because there were a lot of people who thought I was crazy because I was on that trajectory, right? I'm
Yep.
climbing, right?
Mhm.
And nobody really, especially then, they didn't think about, going across. It was always up, and no one ever thought about going
Back
down,
down.
right?
Yeah, quote unquote.
And
Yes.
down. But they just didn't understand what my passion was about. But Nancy did. And she just, gave me the room to fly. And I went for that role. I got it. And I never looked back. I never looked
Mm.
back. And it just fed my heart, fed just my spirit. And I was able to like continue to learn and grow. And eventually I left State Farm after 17 years. And then I went into, another organization that was smaller. Got back onto the business side a little bit. I wasn't really expecting to. Um, but it was a small organization, so I learned a lot about, how an insurance company really works. Because when you work for those larger organizations, you never get a chance to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah, it's all
You only,
segmented.
yeah, you only see your parts.
Hmm.
But anyway, so all along the way, from that organization to AIG, where I, again, increasing responsibility and opportunity to like make my mark and try different things,
Yeah.
try, fail, learn, do. And then ultimately at USAA, all along the way, I always love the opportunity to help people like get where they want to go. And being in talent development and learning development and that side of HR has given me so many opportunities to like just expand my own wings and then help other people do the same. So
Yeah.
it's been an awesome climb.
It does. And it sounds like, you found your passion very early in your career. But how did you decide when you went to school? What made you decide to go into marketing? Like, what was your thought about, hey, I'm just going to go into marketing?
Um, well, I always love commercials.
I love it.
I always love commercials and jingles. And so it's like, as I learned about influence, like marketing is all about influence, marketing and branding. It's all about that. And so like the power of like the human mind and what makes us like want a Coca-Cola, versus a Pepsi. Like what's the difference between the two? I remember back in the day in my marketing classes, you remember when they had like oh, they like advertisers would put like subliminal messages
Yes.
into
Yes.
like the ice and the Coke and like all that kind of stuff. I just found all of it really interesting. And what's really cool about it, when I think about it now, is in my role as an enterprise leader, that was my last role before I left corporate at USAA, and others too. I try to help my learning and development folks realize that what we did was all about marketing and branding. Like you could put
Yeah.
out a
Yeah.
great workshop, a great leadership development workshop, or you have like great content on a platform. But if you don't tell anybody about it, it's like a tree falling in the woods. You got to
Yes.
make it sexy. You got to make people want to learn. People want to learn, but you got to make it tasty. And that
Yeah.
has to do with marketing and branding.
That's actually the connection I was making. That's what I wondered about that. I was like, because at the end of the day, your passion and ability to be able to pour into others, to me, it goes back to that psychological piece, right? Of connecting the dots or helping others connect the dots. So I
Helping others
figured
connect the dots.
that was very interesting. When you talked a little bit about that first leader job or first manager job that you took and someone really believed in you,
Yeah.
what was it? The reason you took that job, was it because of her belief? What made you decide to take that leap? Because so many women right now struggle with that. Okay, I'm doing an amazing job as an individual contributor. Do I even want to lead a team? Do I want to be leading other people? What was that for you?
For me, it's just I just love people. I just love people, Felicia. I always have. I was one of those kids, in like junior high or even younger than that, when a new kid was coming into the classroom, I was always excited that day.
Oh, wow.
Always, I remember that. Always excited that day because that was an opportunity for me to like spread my love and like, and just like, take someone under
Awesome.
my wing who doesn't know anybody, I'd be the one who would want to sit with someone who no one else wanted to sit with. Yeah, you make me
That's
think about things I haven't
awesome.
thought about in a while. Great question. But yeah, so and back then, I think it's a little bit different now. I was reading an article the other day where they were saying that leadership is almost like they're having a hard time getting folks to want to lead,
Yes.
because they're watching leaders that are burnt out, that are tired, that are like unhappy. And they're like,
Why would I
these new
want that?
generations, why would I want to do that? What's so great about leadership? And they're not as interested as, we were maybe back then in the
Yeah.
titles and the swag and like all that kind of stuff that you think about when you think about, being a leader, all that tangible kind of stuff that really at the end of the day doesn't matter. Because the
Yeah.
work is hard. But so I just really wanted to like help,
Yeah.
and that was an opportunity for me to do so. So I was like, bring it on. I'll do it. I'll
But
try.
you bring up a good point though, with to your point, people are like, why would I want to do this crazy job, work all these hours and do all this stuff? Like, how do we change the narrative around what leadership looks like and really what it really means? Because to your point, it really is about pouring into others and the ability to see someone have that aha moment, right? Where they
Yes.
thought they weren't good enough or they didn't know it, and now they feel capable and whole and ready to move. I mean, that's for me too, is the biggest piece about leadership is training someone or teaching someone that they already have everything they need on the inside. They just got to tap
Yes.
into it.
Yes.
How do we re-advertise that? How do we repackage what leadership is?
Well, okay. So the first thing I would say is, and this is going to be provocatively debatable, okay?
Okay.
If you don't like people, please do all of us a favor. Stay away from leadership.
That's true.
Stay away from leadership because we're not talking about managing,
Mhm.
right? We're not talking about managing. We're talking about leading. We're talking about leading people. But if you love people and you have the ability to influence and you have the desire to help someone get from point A to B to C for an intended outcome, especially on a team, by all means, that's what leadership is about. It's
Yeah.
about the people. I went at one time in one of my roles. Um, I was back to being an individual contributor, and then it found me again, right? So, and I had this leader, VP, and she said, "Oh, she gave me like parts of her team." And she's like, "Oh, thank goodness you're here, Cheryl. Thank goodness." She's like, "You know what? I love my job as a leader." She's like, "I just can't stand the people."
Whoa.
And I am looking at her like the way you're looking at me right now. Like, what on earth?
How did you land here?
How? But there's so many people out there. So the narrative, for me, to change the narrative is like it is really at the end of the day, it is about people. But what you might be seeing, those in the younger generations who are watching leaders who are burnt out, miserable, etc., I would like to say, you are probably looking at some leaders who don't enjoy leading,
People.
who don't
Yeah.
enjoy people. And if that's
Good. That's
you,
good.
then you could be the one to go in there and change that for others. That's what I'm hoping for. That we get leaders out there who can get back to like the people, really, at the end of the day.
I love that. And that's true. That the people is a large part of it. So let's talk about that. So we're talking about the people part, and that's a large piece, but we also know that there's a whole other side. There's a political aspect that
Mm,
goes into leading and going into the senior management piece.
yes.
So what do you think is one of the largest challenges that women of color in leadership have to be prepared for? Besides you, let's say you enjoy leading, you love people, and you're doing that well, but there's some other stuff. What are the other stuff that they need to know?
Oh God, there's lots of other stuff. We don't have time to go through all the stuff, Felicia, today.
Give us your top two.
Oh, so one of the things that so as you read in my bio, my family is from Trinidad and Tobago. And so one of the things that my parents instilled, especially when they migrate, they immigrate, they were immigrants, came to this country, making their way, that kind of thing. Um, One of the things that my mom and my dad would say to me from the time, and my sisters, from the time we were like little, all the way up to probably just the other day, my mom, is that when you are well, it's harder just as a woman, but when you are a woman of color, you have to work twice as hard to get the same recognition, accolades, acknowledgement as your counterpart who is not. And it's more so even than just that. It permeated into how I would dress, how I would speak, like how I would speak. Um, because I knew that my grade was a harder, was going to be on a harder curve than someone else. Definitely harder than a male, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and so, and that's a lot. That's a
it is a
lot.
lot.
I was talking to someone the other day who called me out as being an overachiever and a perfectionist. And like, where does that come from? And I said, well, it probably comes from, I don't know, let me guess, comes from
Having to do it for
knowing,
so much.
yeah, having to do and knowing that I I can't just do well. I have to do really well
Yeah,
in order
yeah.
to be acknowledged as if I just did well.
Correct.
Right? I know you understand what I'm
Yes.
saying,
Oh,
right?
I know. Yes. And it's the thought that continues to permeate your mind. You think about it on your day to day, like, well, so and so, Jan, she leaves every day at 4. I mean, I'd like to leave every day at 4, but I also know that the scale in which Jan is being measured and the scale that I'm being measured is a little bit different. And her
Yeah.
leaving at 4, leaving at 4, unfortunately, is looked at a little bit differently. And we have to, and people can say that's not true. They can say, oh, no. But it is, whether we want to call it a conscious or unconscious bias. To your point, it exists. And so I don't think sometimes people say it's in our head. It's not just in our head. No.
No, it's not just in our head. And I remember one time working, and I was like, this was before I moved into the learning development side. And I was a senior leader. And there was um, another woman of color who was let go from the organization because she embezzled, right? And I remember another leader, a peer of mine, a teammate of mine. I came in one day with, I don't know, something on. I had like a nice piece of jewelry on and everything. And she said to me that, I probably want to put that jewelry away. Otherwise, people are going to think that I might be doing the same thing that this other woman did.
Wow.
And I looked at her and I was like, why would they say that? Why would they think that? And then she didn't have an answer because she knew I was calling her out.
Wow.
So it's like it's those kind of things. Now, did she have any malintent in that? I truly believe not. But it's that the
Correct.
unconsciousness, unconsciousness, unconscious bias.
Unconscious bias. I know what you meant. We hope it was unconsciousness.
I
And I
know.
wish she would have in that
I
moment.
mean, and it was just kind of like, I mean, I haven't thought about that. And it's funny how that just popped into my brain just now. But it's like those kind of things, that you just have to deal with. The word articulate, when
Yes.
people are so surprised how well you speak. And I wonder,
Yeah.
like, well, how
Why is that?
does this sound? And again, people just say things without realizing sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's how you make somebody feel that matters.
Absolutely. No, that's sorry. I'm still kind of in my mind about what she said to you. Like, So because she had a situation, I have a situation. And to your point,
Right.
it was, I firmly believe as we talk about that some people honestly mean well. Like she honestly meant that as a, hey, I want to give you a heads up and don't
Yes,
even necessarily see or understand why it's problematic about what she said, how problematic it is. And so I don't think it was malice there, but the fact that that thought happened and how did you expect me to respond to take off all of my jewelry and like wear old clothes? I mean, what you want me to
I
do?
know, which I'm like, which my mom would not, I mean,
I
that would
know.
not have been acceptable. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, but no, it's absolutely true that we do. I mean, that's one of those people say, is that still true? Do you still have to work twice as hard? From my seat, the answer is still yes, right? We can say that it doesn't exist, and I think in some pockets there's goodness and there's more equality and equity in terms of that, but I don't think that it's permeated enough to say that it's no longer a thing.
no, it's still a thing. And we've seen that in all different kinds of ways, in
Yeah,
industries, et cetera. It is still a thing. So, but you just know that. Just don't put your head in the sand about that.
yes,
And I like to say show up and show out.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the trade offs you've had to make, or if any sacrifices or like trade offs that you had to make in your career to really show up the way that you wanted to show up?
Oh, that is a really, really great question. I So I grew up out in like Eastern Long Island, right? And so I like to say I learned my Hanukkah songs, along with my Christmas songs, growing up. So I grew up in a way where I was usually like the only one, right? The only one that looked like me in a classroom, the only one that looked like me in the mall, go wherever, like where I worked, you know what I mean? So, so when I think about like as I've gotten older and different like levels of my career, at the end of the day, I don't know what I've sacrificed because I've always felt like the decisions that I've made, the people I've surrounded myself with, you know what, if anything, Felicia, I've sacrificed my career for family. Like I
That
worked
trade
in.
off, though.
Yeah, the trade-off because I worked in organizations where, especially when I was at State Farm, where they expected you at a certain level to be able to move anywhere. And I don't know, there are differences in family, cultural differences, and it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
didn't work for me to like be away from my family. And it wasn't like I wasn't willing to move certain places, right? But I wasn't willing to move and be in places where, like I said, I grew up in a certain way. I wanted to be able to be around more diverse areas where I would see more people that looked like me,
yeah.
and be okay with that. But because
Mhm.
at the time I was single, the attitude was like, you're single. You can go anywhere that you like,
Anywhere,
anywhere
yeah.
we send you. And I go, I don't want to be by myself in Alabama. No, no offense to Alabama, but I didn't want to be single and alone with like
Yeah,
no community
yeah.
that I felt comfortable with. And so I guess I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but I sacrificed and traded off like earlier in my career the opportunities to really climb and elevate on the business side because I wasn't willing to sacrifice my family and what made me feel comfortable. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's something you should be proud of because I think that's something that most people struggle with is that, okay, I want to climb to these certain heights. So then I have to make these sacrifices that sometimes you're not necessarily that comfortable with. So, I mean, I'll be honest, at this point, I think my son's 9 years old, and I think to myself, I don't know if I really want to sacrifice anymore, missing, my son's special needs therapy sessions and things the way I did the first 8 years of his life, I want to be more present. But to your
Yeah.
point, there's a trade-off that comes with that, right? So that
Yeah.
may mean that I may have to make adjustments to my life and the things that I'm comfortable, well, adjustments to my work schedule when I'm comfortable there in order to be more
Absolutely.
present. So no, completely. I completely
Absolutely.
understand that.
But the cool thing is, I think about it now, if I had been willing to make that sacrifice, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now.
That's true.
I would be like some like, senior leader, in a claims organization or some, or something like that, in an insurance organization. I don't know if I would have been able to truthfully have the guts to like take that leap of faith to turn like complete about face and do something totally different with my career back then. So
That's the blessing.
that's a blessing. Everything it's like thank you very much.
Yes.
Happens as it should.
So let's talk about your transition. Talk about when you decided or what made you comfortable enough to take the leap to start your own company.
Oh, I love how you said I was comfortable enough. Oh, I
That was
love
an
how you make
assumption.
that assumption.
That was a big assumption.
That was a big assumption because I was not comfortable at all. At all. When I found myself, looking for my next role when I separated from USAA in April of 2024, I was absolutely terrified because I just that's just I'm a corporate girl, full stop. And I
Mhm.
and I, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad was an entrepreneur, my sister, my husband is a realtor. You know what I mean? So I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs. And I've always said, I need to know where my next paycheck is coming from. I do not have that kind of spirit to run my own business. I don't have it. I admire you and anyone else who does. I don't have it.
Mhm.
And so, but at the same time, for probably a good 6 months after I separated, I was lost because I was looking for roles. And while I was looking for roles, my heart wasn't really into it. One, I was still like hurt and devastated by, what happened when I left my last role. But at the same time, I was like, okay, this is a new start. And I just didn't feel like corporate didn't feel right to me anymore. But then what do? Corporate doesn't feel right. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not an entrepreneur. But then I had an amazing conversation with a beautiful, beautiful spirit one day, and she helped me to recognize that no matter what path I went down, whether I went down the road of corporate or if I went and did my own thing, either way, because I am who I am, I was going to be completely fine. But the turning point for me was one day, Cheryl, you will be sitting in your office on the corporate side and you will wonder to yourself, damn, Cheryl, what would have happened if you had given yourself a chance?
Mm.
And when she said that, and this is a highly, highly intuitive person, right? I'll
Mhm.
leave it there. And all I thought to myself was like, oh, sugar, I don't ever want to be sitting in front of my computer in some office somewhere thinking like, I didn't bet on myself. I didn't give myself a chance. I didn't even try. Cheryl, you can
Yeah.
always get a job. You got the skills. That doesn't go away. Go out there and have this experience and have as much faith in yourself as you have in all the other people that you've led for all these years. And then when I allowed myself to believe, and we talked about Beatrice, right? When I allowed myself to shut that inner critic off and just like listen to my heart and trust myself, then the answer became very, very clear. And I mean, scared, but I say this all the time, be afraid, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I decided to do it anyway.
I love that. That gave me chills. That gave me chills. in a good way, but in a bad way. And you know what I'm talking about because we had a conversation prior to
Best.
this. But that is awesome. That
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, and no regrets, no regrets, no regrets whatsoever. And here's the best part, Felicia, I'm having the best time ever. I'm
You did
having
say
the
that.
most fun I've ever had in my career. I am learning. I am making mistakes. I'm making big mistakes. I'm having amazing wins and aha moments. I might be up until 11 o'clock at night at my computer, but it doesn't feel the same as when I was up at 11 o'clock at night when I had like some company, when I was on some company's computer. It's mine. That's my stuff I'm doing. I'm doing it for organizations and individuals that I care about. And it's not
Yeah.
just one organization. I get a chance to spread myself out and share myself with a whole bunch of different people and orgs. And it is awesome. It is.
Yeah, I can tell. If you could see Cheryl's face, you can tell that she's really enjoying it. Whether you're listening to this by video, if it's by podcast in the car, tune into YouTube because you have to see the passion and joy that's on her face right now. I love it. So, last question before we talk about the book.
Okay.
So, what is one thing that you would tell that your younger self would tell yourself today? Or did I say that right? That you would have told your younger self about your leadership journey?
Oh, what would tell my younger self?
Yes.
Um, Trust yourself. Trust yourself. You are going to have this inner voice, this inner critic that is going to question you a lot along the way. You haven't named her yet, but her name is Beatrice. She's there to protect you, but you don't need protection. And you don't need to be small, and you don't need to keep yourself small. I did a lot of people pleasing in my life and in my career. You know, I mean, there were people who I let into my circle that I knew instinctively I didn't need to, but I did, and I would just tell her, "You don't need to do that." But at the same time, go ahead and stay on the same path you're on. Don't change anything.
Oh,
Be okay, just being brave and trusting yourself along the way.
oh, I love that. This is so good for the spirit. This conversation is just really good.
Aw.
It feels, and that's one of the reasons why you've become one of my favorite people because these conversations, every time we talk, it just like fills me in a
Oh,
real
thank you. But it feels me too. Because your energy and your smile, just kind of like elevates me. And then I'm just kind of like, woo. Someone asked me, like, do you drink coffee? And I'm like, I don't need any coffee. I'm already got enough energy as it is.
I love it. So tell the audience a little bit about your book, what they can expect. Of course, we will shoot out to our audience as soon as it's available on Amazon, but
Oh,
give us
thank
a little
you.
sneak preview.
Oh, see, previous. So, the title is It Starts with Joy. And it's really about my journey to like understanding what it is like to lead with joy, but more importantly, what it costs when you don't, or when you as an individual are subject to having your joy under attack and your joy ambushed. And so it really just it was so hard to write, Felicia, because I had to, like, you're writing a book about joy. You have to talk about the times when joy was like maybe not there, or
Yeah.
someone tried to take it from me. And it made me go back to a whole lot of different experiences that I haven't thought about in a very, very long time. And ultimately, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to inspire leaders who have either their joy has dimmed, or they're hungry for it, or maybe they are even skeptical and thinking that this whole joy thing is, a bunch of, malarkey. But one thing I know for sure, if I had to give joy a job title, what would it be? And it's like, it's my COO. It is the operating system for how I show up in my life, and it's the operating system for how I show up in my career and for all the people that I'm blessed to, enjoy this journey with. And I'm trying to inspire leaders that if you can't reconcile joy being your chief operating officer of your life, please, please don't lead. Don't lead, right? Because if you're not operating from that place, you will someday look behind you and there'll be nobody following you. You won't
Mm,
even recognize yourself. Why are you here?
I agree.
So
Oh,
I'm hoping to inspire leaders to like
yeah.
find it and
Yeah.
understand the importance of leading from that place of joy. And not fluffy joy, right? We're not talking about, holiday joy. I'm talking about it like intrinsic, like
Deep. Yes.
it's a strategy, it's your operating system. It's where you get your alignment from. It's how you make your decisions. It's how you check and know what's right and what's wrong. But it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
shift that you need to make in your mind, and it's a strategy for how you're going to show up.
I love that. I love that. And when are we around the time we're expecting this book to come out?
Mid-September. Right now, my publisher is saying it's September 18th, and it'll be available
Oh,
on
wow.
Amazon. Yes.
I am so excited to read it. You just talking about it, I feel like I definitely need to read it. The whole concept of joy being your chief operating officer. And this is crazy, but when I think about Joy being my chief operating officer, I think about the fact that I can't fire my chief operating officer because the moment that I fired Joy, then what do I have left?
Oh my gosh, Felicia, that is so true. And it's funny because when I was thinking about it, like what's the title? It can't CEO, CFO, but the COO, that's the person who knows where all the bodies are buried. That's the
Yes,
person who controls all the resources. That's the
yes,
person who's really in charge in a large and complex organization. And we as
yes.
human beings, we are big and complex. So it is definitely the operator and the foundation for how you show up. And it
I
feels
love
so
it.
much better to work from that place if
It
you are
does.
willing to give yourself the chance to try it.
Yeah. And to
Yeah.
be tapped in enough to recognize when it exists and when it doesn't.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not
Yeah,
about being like giddy and nice. And because a lot of times people see me and they're just kind of like, all right, well, you're just like, you're all about like happiness and that kind of thing. Like, can you lead? Well, you've got to be able to, I didn't get here by not making hard decisions, having hard conversations. But that doesn't mean I'm not coming from it from a human place. You
for
don't have to
sure.
be a jerk. You can approach, work with, dare I say, love. We are human beings,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah. So it just fills me up. It fills me up.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I can't wait till the book comes out in September. For the
Thank
audience,
you.
if you follow us on our platforms, we will definitely be posting as soon as it hits Amazon. I think this is something not just current leaders, but future new leaders need to tap into
Yes.
and think about intentionally, because it's an intentionality about making Joy your COO for
Yes.
sure.
Absolutely. Thanks for saying that, and
Yeah.
appreciate your support and asking me about the book. I'm really excited. Excited.
Yes. So tell everybody how they can find you, your website, socials, all of the things.
Yes, yes. So if you want, please follow me on LinkedIn, Sheryl Raphael Whitaker, and my website is iananthonyelitetalent.com. Yes, so reach out, say hello, and happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about joy or anything else that's going on in the world these days.
Awesome. Well, Cheryl, thank you. Thank you so much again for joining us on the podcast. Of course, you filled my cup. This is like a love fest.
Oh
Every
my
time we're
God.
together, it comes from a genuine
Always.
place. And I will say, for the audience, you have to find people like this, right? You have to be surrounded with people that when you get together, you make each other better, you elevate each other, but you also walk away feeling like your cup is full. You know, when me and Cheryl talked prior to this conversation, I was like, this day, I would just say it, this day sucks. Like I'm like, I'm over it. But leaving this conversation like an hour later, I feel so much better. My cup is full. And so I
I
just,
just do.
you have to find some Cheryls in the world who to do that for you. I think that's important in your journey. It's important in your leadership journey for sure to have people who can help to do that for you and can hold you accountable because Cheryl does that also with my inner critic, Pinky. So thank you
So much,
again.
Felicia. Thank you.
I
I
know.
appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and with the audience. The Climb is amazing, and I'm really, really proud and honored to be part of the Climb family. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Please make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms. And until next time, keep climbing and keep striving, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning into the Climb podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on wherever you listen to podcasts. For updates and behind-the-scenes content, make sure you're following us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Join the Climb. Until next time, keep climbing and keep thriving, sis. See you next episode.